I just want my hour. Okay, I can start. Okay. I just want to preface my remarks and just say very clearly that I'm unworthy of the task that's entrusted to me, but since they asked, I'll try my best, and it's very difficult speaking about the love without being trivial and what they call hanging on a tall man's suspenders. And I will try my best not to do that. And I will also try my best not to look at the love as an expression of myself, which I find a pitfall of most of the various talks that I've heard. I will try at least my best to try to objectively say or relay what I saw. To be frank, I prepared many stories, prepared many divrei Torah. I'll try to mix and match both, because on one hand, I don't want to become story hour, because everyone says, like, the love in me. And on the other hand, I think that one could get the best taste of who the love is by having some divrei Torah. And I will try my best to explain them. And you should understand the Rav's probably great-great-grandfather, the Netziv, is quoted by his son Chaim Berlin, in the Akdama to his Sefer on the Talmud. It claims that the Netziv told him, as the Rav used to call him Hersh Leib, that Divreim Heim Zichronom, the only real epitaph to a person are their words. And the Netziv said they should be mamayit to make very small time for hespedim, for eulogies, because the hesped of a person is their life. And as much as he looked, it's very strange, he looked at Tshuvas Reb Kveger or Chidush V'Drush Reb Kveger's books as the biggest Musa Svarim. However, when he was given Reb Kveger's biography, he was not interested in it. So I will I will start, let's leave it like this. I will start with two stories, okay, which I think might not have been told, and then I will have some divrei Torah. We'll try to have questions and answers at the end, and if you want more stories, you can ask for them as you like. And I will try my best to answer questions and not to dodge them. And I'll be very honest. If I don't know the answer, I will say I don't know. And don't look at it as dodging, look at it as trying to be honest. First, what I will try to relate to you is my last encounter with the Rav. Okay? Now, you should just know that last encounter was 10 days before his P'tira. Okay? I was working, Baruch Hashem, I must say that I had the schus of working, not only of being in the shir for 11 years, from let's say 1971 to 1982, but I was asked to help edit his father's sefer, which we used to call the Pinkus, which is a very interesting, let's say, the notebook itself was in many different handwritings, okay? The Rav's father used it as a chavrusa when he was in Przane, because he married Rabbi Eliyahu Feinstein's daughter, and there was no one to learn with. So this was his chavrusa. And it had to be written over because of the page or whatever. Some was written by his wife's cousin. Others, to be frank, were in Briskarov's handwriting. And the handwriting changed over the years. And the Briskarov was 10 years younger, so he asked him to write over some pieces. Briskarov spent, in order to be able to dodge the draft, Rab Chaim sent him to be with the Rav and with Rav Moshe and the Rav in the First World War. This Pinkus was published as Chedush Agram Alevi. Afterwards, I was asked to continue, and we published what was called Chedush Hagram V'Agrid, which we'll discuss soon about. And finally, I was involved in the Rav's last sefer, Igris Hagrid Alevi. Okay. Now, just the backdrop, I was trying, I think I was the only one in Eretz Yisrael that was working on the sefer at that time. Maybe he was here, I don't recall exactly. But I was not only involved in putting it together, but I was involved in the final steps of publication. And I must say, I was almost like overtaken by an urge, because I knew I was going to the States before Pesach, and I decided this sefer will have to go with me, and I'm going to finish it, and it's going to be published. Some of the people involved in the sefer thought that I should have been basically institutionalized because the hours that I was putting in or whatever, but in retrospect, you'll understand that it was min hashamayim that this happened. When I got to the States, I had the sefer with me. The title page, just to tell you something about this, it was Chedush Hagram V'Agrid. It was written in Chatzlavich. The Rav probably was in his teens, and I don't think he maybe finished it when he was 20 or whatever, 21, 20, I'm not sure exactly, 22. It's interesting if you look at the Rav Moshe's, he wrote a letter about the Rav, and he claimed that the Rav has chidushim on the Rambam, on the whole Rambam. This is part of it. Rav Moshe claimed that the Rav had written it, but the title page, since the Rav was publishing it, we had to take the Rav's version, and it was Divrei Torah Shenemu B'Chabura Im Agein Rav Moshe Alevi Soloveitchik, and the Rav wanted it to be written in B'nai V'Talmido Yahrtzeit V'Alevi. And I told his son Chaim that, that's all very nice, but if the Rav is publishing it, he can say in B'nai V'Talmido Yahrtzeit V'Alevi, but, if we're publishing it, we have to give him a title. And Chaim was maskim, and that was the page. That was the page. That was a Divrei Torah Shnema B'Chabura. The Rav claimed that it was not only himself; it was him and father. Okay, beside. I asked a family member who was close to the Rav whether I should go up to Boston, Brookline, and present the Rav with the Sefer. And the person, let's say, leave unnamed because you'll hear the name. He told me in very clear terms, there's nothing to go for. Okay. Again, Min HaShamayim, I had an appointment, which I was supposed to see someone, and the appointment was canceled, and I said, okay. I asked Rabbi Yitzchak Lichtenstein, let's go up to Boston and present the Rav with the Sefer. We drove up for 4 hours. I arrived in the room that the Rav was sitting in. It was a very interesting room. There were pictures of the Beis Halevi, his great-grandfather, his grandfather, Reb Chaim, and Reb Moshe Soloveitchik. And the Rav was sitting in a chair. Okay, some type of reclining. I can't really describe it exactly, but it was very clear that he was completely detached from this world. His eyes were closed, and it was like almost there was a barrier between him and the world at large. He had a male nurse by the name of Marcus. So I asked Marcus, he used to call him the rabbi, that's the way he used to refer to him. Okay. Is this a good day for the rabbi, a bad day? How do you, what grade would you give it? So he said it's a bad day. So I looked at Yitzi, and I said to Yitzi, listen, we drove up here 4 hours to Boston to give the Rav the Sefer. I'm going to give it my best. Min HaShamayim, I decided to mention titles of pieces, not titles, just to describe pieces in a very short way, of pieces that I had worked with father in Chaslavich about 70 years before the time. And I mentioned one title, and I whispered in his ear, and another title, and another title. And slowly, to my amazement, his eyes started opening, and opening, and opening, till they were very clearly opened. And he started talking. To be frank with you, there was no way possible for me to understand what he was saying. He didn't have his dentures in. They were afraid, whatever, that he had of his dentures. And it was some type of Yiddish, which I do understand Yiddish, but it was clearly there was a certain excitement, and he was trying to interact with me. And then I saw that smile, which is very characteristic of the Rav. It was contagious and charismatic in the way that you wanted to smile and be with him. I decided at that point that now is the time. You have to understand, the Rav over the years had 2 cataract operations, and in my experience of sitting in front of the shiur, I was somewhat aware of the way he focused on things. And I decided that I was going to try to show the Rav the page which he had dictated to his son Chaim, describing the Sefer, Divrei Teira Shenemu B'Chabura Magoin of Moshe Levi Salvation B'Nova Talmidoi, and I was going to try to show him this title page. What I did was, I took the Sefer, and I knelt down, one knee down, and holding the Sefer, trying to watch his eyes, and that he was able to focus on this title page. And to my amazement, he was focusing on the page. And for 2 minutes, it was very clear that he was looking intently on this title page. I saw after 2 minutes, it's approximately 2 minutes, that the eye contact with the Sefer had ended. I closed the Sefer, and we drove back to New York. To be frank with you, when I got back to Eretz Yisrael, on Chol HaMoed Pesach, I decided we have to start the next Sefer. And my late wife wanted to visit someone, and whatever it is, I said, I'm walking, and I'm holding the letter. I was entranced. And what I was looking at that time was a letter that Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik wrote to the Rav about using and killing with the Shem Hashem as Moshe Rabbeinu did. Okay, whatever. I think it was a day or two later I heard about the Rav's Petira, and to be frank with you, I was completely shattered because I was there a few days before. Now, just a comment on the story. I called up from Eretz Yisrael his son Chaim to Menachem Ovel. And Chaim said to me, do you know that Papa was smiling when he saw the Sefer? So I said, what are you talking about? No, there were only 3 people in the room. It was Marcus, okay, and Yitzi Lichtenstein, and myself. I said, Chaim, what are you talking? You weren't there. He said, Yitzi told me, that's his grandson, Yitzi Lichtenstein, told me that the Rav was smiling. So I realized what was happening. What had happened is that in trying to hold the Sefer up, catching his eyes and holding the Sefer in position, all I really saw was his eyes, and the rest of his face was blocked. And to my chagrin, I missed that last smile. When I told Rav Michal Feinstein, his cousin, in fact, Rav Michal and the Rav had a yeshiva together in Boston. It was called Heichal Rabbeinu Chaim Halevi. Okay? And I told this tale, which I must say is true, you might not believe me, and to Rav Michal, and he said, Otot, a chefse from Torah, that the Rav embodies is the essence of Torah. How many Rosh Yeshiva, how many people, late Parkinson's, completely detached from the world, and when you talk to them about Divrei Torah, they'll come back to life and re-enter into the world. That, I think, is one story that might not have been told in public, but I said to myself, to a large extent, this is really his eulogy. That's who he was. Now, I just just picking just one or two because I want to really get started on the next thing. But I think the next story that I'd like to tell you is one of the, let's say, one of the brighter points in my life, I must say, is I was invited to study with the Rav in the apartment in the later years, and I think, most times there was maybe two Talmidim there. Okay. And in that period, I was zeicha to be probably the only one, because I was the only one there for the whole period, to hear the Rav study with us, the Shroshim, the 14 principles which you go to Sefer Mitzvahs with. One day, I walked into the apartment, and the Rav says to me, Ilson, sit down. Okay. I sat down. Then he says to me, it was so uncharacteristic of everything. He says, Ilson, I want to tell you something. There was a certain it that I was trying to teach my students. So I looked at him, then he says to me, don't ask me what that it was. I'm not even sure that I will be able to define it for you. But I can say that I was not very successful at all. In my opinion, I'm not even sure that I could count on one hand the number of Talmidim that I was successful in giving over that it. Okay, so you can imagine how many, in his mind, how many we're talking about. He's not sure that he can get to 5. I will tell you that it is the feeling of being in a dark tunnel and to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or being in that dark forest, not knowing where you are, and seeing the light at the end of the forest. This it I was trying to teach my students, and I must confess that I was not very successful. I would like to tell you what I think this it might be and what he was referring to. To say it's an intuitive feeling of knowing what and where to go, I don't think is fair. I think the first step in the it is something I remember in the first year in the Shir, he said something which I also didn't understand what he was talking about. In his very humble fashion, he said, boys, I want you to know there's a difference between you and me. If we would have in front of us an elephant and a fly, I go after the elephant. You boys swat at the fly. Part of this intuitive approach is to be able to focus on the main issues instead of flying all over the place and not being any place. The intuitive feeling this it of knowing where to go. Basically, Rabbi Sai, this it is a medrash, a tanchuma. Tanchuma, I didn't write this down because I didn't want to, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I just, Tanchuma in Parshas Noach, in Siman Gimel, when it talks about the difference between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal Peh. V'al Shebal Peh Nemar, how do you look at Torah Shebal Peh? What we call the Talmud Bavli. Aruka me'eretz mida, or chova min hayam. It's colossal. It's infinite. Uksiv lo simotzi be'eretz achayim, or we've not found in among the living. Umay lo simotzi be'eretz achayim, v'chi me'eretz hamesim timsa, ele shaloi timsa Torah shebal peh. Etzu mishi yevakesh, oineg ha'olam, taiva v'chavoit ugdula. One who's looking for those things which everyone defines their life by, how much they can fresh or how much cover they get. El b'mi shemeimis atzmo leho, shenem azis teres adam kiyomus ba'oil. V'chein darko shel teira, pas melech teichal v'chule. Then it continues. I'm skipping a little bit. It says, El al peh v'zuhi Torah shebal peh, she'it kosher lilmoid, v'yesh bo tzar godol. That's the person in the middle of the forest, in the tunnel, but doesn't give up. Shuhu meshua l'cheshech, shnei ma'am ha'hochim b'cheshech, ra'u or godol, a great light. Elu balei haTalmud, shero or godol, she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu meir eineihem b'isa beheta, b'tomei v'toho, u'lo'aselovoi v'o'avav, kitzeis Hashemesh gvurosoi. This divine light shines on this person who is in the Yama Talmud, almost drowning, surrounded by darkness, not knowing where. And this light, this divine light, this is the it which the Rav was referring to. In fact, I think it's referred to as being light. As you look in Rashi in Psochim, on Daf Beis, he talks about the creation of light. That light was created, Shebora mehoid matelavushay. It's the garment of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just in short, this light is the way the Rebbeinu Shalom interacts with us. And that's why, to a large extent, you'll find that Hashgacha is called light. And we say it every day in Shmoneh Esrei. Ki bi'or ponecha nosata lonu Hashem Elokeinu toras chayim ve'avos chesed. This is what we really ask. Yoer Hashem esim shalom is birkas kohanim. We ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, Yoer Hashem ponav elecha v'choneka. What is that? Ki bi'or ponecha nosata lonu Hashem Elokeinu toras chayim ve'avos chesed. And this toras chayim is the Or Godol that the Rebbeinu Shalom shines on the Balei Talmud. And this intuitive feeling, is what the Rav confided in me, that he was very unsuccessful in teaching. This is the Siyata Deshmaya. In the Gemara Megillah, your Gato Matzasa is Tamin, but the Siyata Deshmaya, this divine spark that which Rebbeinu Shalom gives to the Balei Talmud, that's a divine gift. Kivio ponecho nasata lonu Hashem Elokeinu teres chayim v'avas chesed. Now, there could be other stories, but we'll leave it like this. This is just two short meetings, let's say, with the Rav in the later years. The last meeting, the first story I told you, was 10 days before his P'tira. The second story was probably in the early 80s when we were studying with the Rav in the apartment. Now, what I'll try to do is what you call Divreim Hein Zichronom. I will try my best. We'll see what time will allot. What I have in mind to do is take two pieces. One, which is clearly halachic, and to show what might be behind. It's a piece that was published in the Igros Hagvira Levi. And the second is a discussion which I had with the Rav. I used to be a hitchhiker. That is, the Rav used to say shiurim in Maria on Tuesday night, and I used to hitch in the car. I used to sit in the back seat, and that was my chance of asking questions, try mostly in Divrei Torah, which I didn't have that much of an opportunity during the week. And I asked him a question, and I will give you his response, okay? And just to whet your appetite, I heard what he said. I must say, maybe it's my chsoron, I don't know exactly. I was not a nudnik, okay? When I didn't understand something, I said, it's my obligation to understand this, because if he told it to me, it's in my ability, and I'll just put it aside, and someday I'll understand this. I did not understand the profundity of his remark, I must say, till about 30 years later. Okay? So these are the two things that I've mapped out to talk about, and then Amir Hashem will try to have, sometime try to answer some questions, but have more stories we can do, it's as you call it. Here, the piece here was published in the Igros Hagvira Levi at the end of Hilchos Chanukah. What the Rav and father, there used to be correspondence. In Berlin there was correspondence. In Vilna there was correspondence. Igros Hagvira Levi was basically, to a large extent, correspondence between the Rav and Moshe. True, there were other letters to the Malcheshes, and letters to Rav Hutner, and letters to the Avodas HaMelech, and Nachman Karkovsky, his uncle. There were a lot of different letters around, but mostly it was to father. And Ahuvi v'yakiri nafshi, shalom v'brocha. He was in Berlin and came across something, whether it really was that or something else, we can't know. This is what he defined. It certainly was destroyed in the war, whatever it was. Esmo le'isi, Eitzel echod es sefer Turi Even, which was the Shagasai sefer, sheis tamish bo hagoin Rav Kveger zal. This was a Turi Even which had the Agos of Kveger written on the side in Rav Kveger's handwriting. And what he goes and what he tries to do is he sees certain questions that Kveger asked and tries to answer them to father and suggests different things. One of the questions Rav Kveger asks in the beginning over here, which We'll see later, the truth is the Ritva asked the question, but there's no way that the Rav could have known this because the Ritva had not been published, and till much later. And the Ritva asked this question, and maybe alludes to something like what the Rav's saying. We'll see. Okay. There is an issue which we'll talk about. It seems the Bahag's opinion, which he quotes at Taisus, that even though Noshim are chayiv, they're obligated in Kriyas Megillah, Taisus quotes the Bahag as saying that women cannot help men fulfill their obligation. So a woman cannot read the Megillah for a man. Okay, say that. I don't know. You can call it, whatever you want, but those are the facts, okay? Those are the facts. Because a woman is afein hoye b'is hanes, which we'll explain later what the meaning of it is. And their only obligations because they were involved in the miracle of Purim, but they themselves are not obligated, so therefore they can't help men discharge their obligation. However, the Gemara in Shabbos clearly says, as you see in the Ma'amakenis, the first one you see it in line 26, Omer Rav Sheshis, it talks about an achsanoi, a person who's a boarder, is chayiv in their Chanukah, and then it says Omer Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera said, Meireish ki avina beirav, when I used to go to the yeshiva to study, mishtatfo beprite, body ushpiza. I was a boarder, there was no dormitories, it wasn't as fancy as we had. He was a boarder, and he gave money to the person who was there in order to light Ner Chanukah. Bossad Nesivi, after I got married, Os Nesivi Itza, after I got married, Amina, Hashtevade lo tzrichna. I don't have to give money in Mishtate Beprite to call Madlike Alai Bego Beisoi. My wife lights for me in the house at the home. So Rav Kvege asked that the obligation of women in Ner Chanukah, in lighting Chanukah candles, is also afein hoye b'is hanes. It's because they were involved in the miracle. So how is it, according to the Bahag, a woman cannot help a man discharge his obligation in Mikra Megillah, reading the Megillah, but when it comes to Chanukah, wait, a woman can do it. What is going on? But Kvege asked this question and remains with Tzorchim. And the Rav, the emes is, the Ritva asked this question also. It's a good question. As they would say, in plain, it's a knockout question. What do you do? So the Rav's comment to father, V'lo hevanti kushizu, I don't have a clue what's bothering him. Okay? V'lo hevanti kushizu. V'chi ma shayich din shel echod moitzes chaveroi midin shel shomei ka'oina, the fact that a person can or cannot help someone else discharge the obligation of Mikra Megillah because of Shmei Kaina, he says, and they hear, and everything's okay. Hadlokas Ner Chanukah is not Shmei Kaina. Okay. The Bekiyum Hadlokas Shel Ner Chanukah din Shmei Kaina Eino Mi Inyonei Klal. It doesn't have to do. V'chol Yisei Hadin Demisha Madlikin Olav B'Seich Beisai Yedotzi Yedei Chavoso Hu Din Miyuchad Gabi Ner Chanukah. the way you fulfill your obligation of Ner Hanukkah is a whole new story. All you have to do is light for you. What that means we have to understand. Midin, and then he says, Midin shemitzvahs Hanukkah he ner ish ubeisai. We'll see what this means. The Gemara claims that mitzvahs Hanukkah is ner, a candle, ish, the man, ubeso, his wife, family, and that's it. The im betech beisai miskayim kiyum hadloka, hare hadloka zu poiteres es kol b'nei abayis. Just the fact that it's lit, that's enough. The einam tzrichen lahadlik, and no one else has to light. Aval amadlik eino moitzi et zachem idei chavosam, el niftorim hei memela. No one, it's not that the person who lights helps someone else discharge an obligation, but it's something that happens by itself. The Yisai Dinei Chanukah hu diskayim kiyum aloka b'tech beisai. If there's a loka in the house, that's enough. Ochein ze emes. However, what about if a monkey lights in the house? Or a cheir shoyte v'kotten, which for halachic purposes might be the same lights. The Gemara is very clear that it doesn't work, and the Rambam is clear it doesn't work. So what's the difference? She says, do you need a hadlocha shel chiyuv? And women are chayiv, and a cheir shoyte v'kotten, a child is not. Okay? That's what he says. Now what I want to try to do is to show you how this is based on various discussions with father and various things the father wrote, and we'll see exactly what he's trying to say over here. That's what I'm going to try to do, okay? What I just want to tell you is you might see something which looks very simple, but there's a lot more. Yosemi Masha Kosuv Kan. The Gemara, the Rav is quoting a Gemara. You'll see it on line 30. Gemara on Shabbos. Chaf Aleph Amud Beis. Tonu Rabbanon. Mitzvahs Chanukah ner ish ubeisai. Mitzvahs Chanukah, how do we define what Chanukah is, what the mitzvah is? Ner ish ubeisai. And then there's Mahadrin called Ner L'Kol Echad V'Echad. Rashi says there, Ner ish ubeisai. Rashi says, Ner Echad B'chol Layla V'ish V'chol B'nei Beisai Sagilu B'ner Echad. Everyone, one candle, it's enough for everyone. Now what I want to do, I do something maybe I shouldn't do, maybe I should. What I decided to do is, to be frank, in all the years in this year, I didn't hear the Rav quote a Pnei Yeshua, okay? Whether he knew the Pnei Yeshua or did not know the Pnei Yeshua, I really can't tell you because I never discussed the Pnei Yeshua with him. It's clear to me he did not mention the Pnei Yeshua because he wanted us to focus on the text of the Talmud, the Rashi, the Tesis, the Rambam. He once commented, he says, I don't understand you boys. You look at the Gemara in order to see the Rashi. You look at the Rashi in order to see the Tesis. You look at the Tesis in order to see the Rashba. And you look at the Rashba in order to see the Kseis. Why? Why are you wasting your time? Go straight to the Kseis. What he was trying to teach us was in a very clear fashion, we have to focus on texts. Okay. I'll read to you a Pnei Yeshua, and then I will tell you what I think. Okay? Pnei Yeshua says the following. you'll see the Pnei Yeshua, I think on line 32. It says like this. B'Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, Mitzvahs Chanukah ner Yishu Beisai. Nire, the ho the Nishnesa, the ho the Nishtana Mitzvah Mishah Mitzvahs. Why is it different? What's ner Yishu Beisai? She'ein Chayvus Aguf, She'ho Yechiyuv Al Kol Yochid V'Yochid, the Kaimalon Mitzvah Bo Yosem Mishluchai. He's wondering why there's no mitzvah bo yosem shlucha. What does it mean? It means that every time a mitzvah, it's better do it yourself. Don't do it out of shliach. And here, you can do it through a messenger. Someone else does it for you. El the shiny hocha, she'ein hocha ika ha-mitzvah. He says terms, the main mitzvah, el b'samach u'shlarabim, shehu Mishum Pisumei Nisa, in order to broadcast the nace, Mishum Kach Hitilu Chayva Mitzvazu. Now listen to these words. Ki ilu hi chayvas habayis. As if it was chayvas, the obligation on the house. It's as if it's the obligation on the house. Now here is something that the Rav taught us is a no-no, okay? Just from a pedagogical point of view, okay? I still remember when Talmidim used to raise their hands and say something is more than something, or something is less than something, or something is like something, or almost like something. I said, I used to, I was sitting close to the front. What I really instinctively wanted to do is just put my head on the table and get out of the crossfire. What the Rav tried to teach us to do is to define things accurately. And saying something is like something, or something is more than something, or something is less than something, don't tell you nothing, because you don't know anything more than you knew before. And the first step, before you can try to extrapolate about something, you have to know what the something is. But if you have no clue, if, this is what learning is about. If it's something like this, then what you're going to try to think about is something like that. And then, you don't get anywhere. So I'd like to deal, this ki'ilu is a no-no. Now I'd like to tell you what the Ram's approach to this ki'ilu is. And that's why, to a large extent, the Rav used the Rambam. The Rambam, you have like a post office, okay? The Rambam, to some extent, was a post office, because every halachic idea has an address. And the Rambam had a perek, an address for everything. And knowing where he put it, and how he put it, and how he wrote it, was a way of defining what we have here. The Rambam, I think you'll have it on line 37, okay? In perek Yud Aleph Hilchos Brochos, halacha beis. Yesh mitzvah sasei, shodem chayev lehishtadel v'lirdoif ad shiasa oisa. Kegoin tefillin v'sukkah v'lula v'shofar. If there's not a shofar near you, you have to run to hear shofar wherever it happens to be. It's in the tchum, whatever. V'elu hein anikoim choyva. This is an obligation on the person. He has to do it. Lefi she'odem chayiv al kol ponim la'asais. V'yesh mitzvah she'eino choyva. El doimin l'reshus. They're not an obligation, but they are voluntary. Reshus. But we'll see what voluntary means. Could go in mezuzah, Uma'ake, that you shouldn't fall off the roof. You have some type of fence. Mezuzah. She'ein odem chayiv lishklin b'bayis. Hachayib mezuzah, kedei she'asa mezuzah. A person doesn't have an obligation to live in the house in order to make a mezuzah. Elohim rotze lishkon kiyom ba'oil. He can live in a tent with no mezuzah. O b'svina yeshev. V'chein o chayiv l'vnos bayis til asas makeh. There's no obligation. It's rishus. Okay? So mezuzah is what's called chovis habayis. We'll see about it. It's rishus. Then he goes on, Aloha Gimel. V'chein kol ha-mitzvahs shehein midivrei seifim bein mitzvah shehi choyv midivreim k'goin mikol megillah v'alokas ner Shabbos b'Shabbos v'alokas ner Chanukah. So it means halokas ner Chanukah is a chiyuv. It's choyva. He's going back to what he just said. Okay? But what's going on over here? The Pnei Yeshua is right. You need a house. A person doesn't have a house, a nomad has no ner Chanukah. So what's the difference between the nomad in mezuzah and the nomad of ner Chanukah? What's the difference? The difference is very simple, okay? It is true, you tell me, okay, you tell me, but the Gemara didn't say that mezuzah is chovis habayis, is the obligation of the house. It's also an obligation of the person living in the house. As the Gemara says, mezuzah chovis hador. So it's an obligation of the person living in the house. So really, mezuzah and ner Chanukah are the same. Okay? But the difference is, I have no obligation from Hilchos Mezuzah to live in a house. When I live in the house, I have to put up a mezuzah. Okay, but I don't live in the house, I don't have to put up a mezuzah. Ner Chanukah, true, I can't be Mekayim the mitzvahs ner Chanukah if I have no house. But the obligation is on me, independent of having a house. I have to have a house. You know, question how much you have to pay for it. But my obligation is to light ner Chanukah. To light ner Chanukah, I need a house. If I don't have a house, you might call me an onus, but I have an obligation which I haven't fulfilled. Mezuzah have no house. I'm A-okay. So it is true for ner Chanukah, you need a house, okay? But what exactly is it? The chiyuv is not independent of a house, okay? In mezuzah, if there's no house, there's no chiyuv. In Chanukah, the house is not in chivas gavra, in my personal obligation. It's in the kiyum mitzvah. I can only discharge my obligation if I have a house, but there's no chivas gavra. Okay. So now we understand that the Rambam, see the Pnei Yeshua in the ki'ilu chayva, it's not really the chivas gavra of ner Chanukah is a bona fide bonus chivas gavra. It's just that in hechatimsa, how I can fulfill this obligation, I can only fulfill it through a house. It's a din in the kiyum mitzvah. That is what we see at the moment. And the Rav felt it's even more than that. Ner ish ubeisoi. Okay. Since the obligation is not in chivas gavra, okay, and it's only in kiyum, but there's no, he learned, if you look clearly, there's no ma'aseh mitzvah. It is true, you'll see, the Gemara says, hadloka is a mitzvah, but it's really the way to equip my house with hadlokas ner Chanukah. The mitzvah is that ner ishu beisai, the house has to be equipped with a hadloka. And that is the mitzvah. Since the mitzvah is to equip the house, and there's no Maisa mitzvah, the whole idea of mitzvah bo yosim b'shluchai, who does it is irrelevant. It's the family has to have a hadlokas ner Chanukah in this house. Whether it's Harry the father or Lily the mother, it's really irrelevant, completely irrelevant. So the Pnei Yeshua's question of mitzvah bo yosim b'shluchai, whether he should do it or she should do it, is really irrelevant. The Rav went even further. The pshat is, just let me just give you another thing over here. Neri Shubeisai. The question is, I'm going to skip because we're getting, somehow we started later, whatever it is. I'll or maybe I'll tell you this a little bit. You see, Rashi, it could be that, there's an issue in the Gemara if I have a chotzer, and I have a chotzer, and I have a bias. Tosfos says you light on the chotzer, the Pesach chotzer. Rashi held that you lit on Pesach habayis, because it could be that since the chalois kiyum has to be neri shubeisai, or the hadlokas neris has to be mitzuv to the bias, and in chotzer it's not mitzuv. In fact, that is what the Rav would have said. The Rav once said that the shir tefach is not stam. The shir tefach hasomu shrabim, tefach, or tefach. Tefach is a shum and tziruf. The Rav used to point out that we find tefach, that therefore if it's more than a tefach to the mashkeif, it has to be a tefach removed, then it's on the mashkeif. It's not, it's on the top of the arch, and the mezuzah can't be there. And the Rav pointed out the din kaporos in the zrika, in the azor, it has to be tefach. Tefach is samuch. Tefach is shir samuch. Or the Rashi learned that the din of Beisai is a din of samuch. It has to be mitzuv to the house. Then the Rav went further. He said like this, okay? That's what he said. Father had the following issue. The father used to ask the following question. What is the din of Afhein Hoya Beisanes? And father said that you can look at Afhein Hoya Beisanes, Noshim, as far as the obligation, and Nechanik in Megillah, you could say that when there's a mitzvah of Afhein Hoya Beisanes, there's no patur of mitzvah saseh shazman groma. Noshim, if it has to do with time, they're potter. So there's no way that they are obligated just like men. Oh no, women are not obligated like men. Women have a separate obligation. It's called afhein hoya b'isanes. It's a different obligation. He used to say that the Bahag's approach is that women have a different obligation. It's not that there's no p'tur. There is a p'tur in Megillah of mitzvah seshas mangroma, but they have a separate obligation of afhein hoya b'isanes. So in Megillah, you can't have two different obligations. Be moitzi, you can't have a woman who has a different obligation than a man helping to fulfill the mitzvah. However, he said by Ner Chanukah, it's not that the man helps the woman fulfill the obligation, or the woman helps the man fulfill the obligation. What you have to have is a hadloka shel chiyuv. The person who lights has to be called hadloka. He has to have an obligation to light. And what he has done is provided the house with a hadlokas ner Chanukah. A woman, even with being obligated from Afhein Hoye Beis Hanes, can provide the house with hadlokas shachiyuv. However, ketanim are very different. And what I'd like to do is share with you something, and you won't be able to hit me with it because you can't really cross-examine me. I'm going to tell you over, and I will not take questions also, and I'll tell you why. You'll see what I'm saying. I'm going to tell you over part of a piece which was in the Pincus of his father, Rav Moshe, which we didn't publish, okay? Whatever reason it is, that's what it was, okay? Now, in that piece, Father makes the following statement, okay? Father is looking at what we call chinuch, okay? And I'll illustrate. He doesn't use this illustration, but I think this illustration would be very nice. If you look in terms of chinuch, you'll find that, for example, in Lulav, okay, in Lulav, it says, Kotten Yodei L'Naneya, he knows how to shape the Lulav in all the dexterous ways, he's chayiv, okay? And then the Ram says something which is not known, okay? He says on Pesach, Kotten sheyochol lecho kezayis dogon machilin oisay matzes. Okay? My 19-month child, okay, I fed him a kezayis matzah to fulfill the Rambam. But, you know, the whole thing sounds, very, very, very strange, okay? The child doesn't know from nothing, okay? And by lulav, he has to be a ganze macher. He has to be able to pick the lulav, know exactly which way to shake, and everything doesn't know. So what's going on? He didn't use this example. I'm using the example just since we're just coming out of Pesach, so you might remember there was Pesach. Let's make it easier. Rav Moshe said that there are two dinim in chinuch. There's one din in chinuch, and the Rambam, if you look at the Rambam, his loshen is tachlis hadiktuk, exactly defined. Sometimes the Ram says machanchin oisei b'mitzvahs, and sometimes the Rambam says kotten chayiv. What is the difference? Rav Moshe said, when the din is machanchin oisei b'mitzvahs, the kotten is not chayiv at all. The chiyuv is on the father. For example, my son wants to run away from me and not eat the matzahs. It's not his problem. It's my problem. Because I have to feed him matzahs. But he is not chayiv in matzahs. He's not doing anything. My obligation is to make sure that he feeds matzahs. He eats matzahs. However, lulav, the Loshen Rambam by lulav, is kotten chayiv. Kotten, as the Rav said once, kotten as far as netilas lulav, a kotten shegir lechinuch. This kotten is a godol. He used to give the example of muflas samach leish, that the same way, and I quote over here the Gemara in the Dorim, the Gemara in Nida, I mean, the Gemara in Nida should be, one second, do I have here the Gemara in Nida? Tell me which line it is. Is there Gemara in Nida? I didn't put it in. So yeah, on line 71, the Gemara in Nida says that if a kotten is makdish something, okay, the Gemara has an opinion at the beginning, is ready to accept that he should be chayiv malchus if he violates his neder. So the Rav said, Rabbeinu Shalom, what does it mean? It means that a cotton, as far as Medagim is concerned, is the Haggadah. And that's what happened in Chinuch. Sometimes, Rav Moshe didn't give the klal, but sometimes it was formulated that as far as Chinuch is concerned, there's an obligation on the father to get him into it. But it's not to do any mitzvah, it's to get him into it. Sometimes the Rabbanan said that a cotton is chayiv. Okay. In Mikra Megillah and Hadlokas Ner Chanukah, in Mikra Megillah and Hadlokas Ner Chanukah, in Mikra Megillah and Hadlokas Ner Chanukah, what the Lashon Rambam is, machanchnos b'mitzvahs. That's how the Rambam answers the question about Trei D'Rabbanan. One can't help, a cotton can't be Motzi Godel in Mikra Megillah because he's not chayiv. And on the basis of that, the Rav said that the hadlaka of a cotton is not a hadlaka of chiyuv because he has no obligation. And that's how the Rav answers the question. A hadlaka and a bias of a cotton, as far as the mitzvah is concerned, is a hadlaka of kaif. And that is just a short, I skipped a little bit, but this is a short explanation of a little piece in Igus Agid. Okay, I'm sorry with the time. The other piece I won't be able to talk about. I'll take questions now, and we'll, yes? Ner Shabbos, I'll tell you frankly. You see, first of all, you have to ask yourself, is Ner Shabbos b'Torah's covered or oinig? Okay? Pashtus, the Ram has both, but even if it's covered, it's not clear that's the obligation. The only one that said, the truth is accepted in halacha, but it's a chiddush al Raviyah. The Raviyah says that the same mishtatef bepritif machsanoi, which was formulated by Ner Chanukah, applies to Shabbos, and he says if you have 10 houses, you have to lighten all your houses. Even if you don't go there. There's a Raviyah, Chuvas Raviyah, and it's part of the halacha. There's no real reason to assume that, okay? And the Gemara never made that equation, okay? And especially if it's oinig, it doesn't do anything. So it only could be the same if it's the house. And that's really the question. The question is, a person eats outside in his backyard. Does his wife have to light in the house also? Because the backyard is not lighting in the house. The question, does his house have to have halakas Ner Shabbos? Okay? Next. 1 second. What you had? No. 1 second. 1 second. Give all the puts. Anyone else? He has a question. Okay, good.
Okay, so you give the people the mic. You distinguish between the keilu of Yehoshua and the domin l'reshus. Why? He could have said domin their reshus. He says domin l'reshus.
I see the Ram's domin l'reshus. Read the sentence and I'll explain it to you. I just want you to everyone should hear what the domin is.
Domin is yesh mitzvah she'einu chava elo domin l'reshus.
Yeah, domin l'reshus means there's no obligation at all. You cannot say that a mezuzah and a maika is reshus mamish.
But it didn't say it's reshus.
Yeah, but see, I'll tell you. But okay, good. I heard what you said. Okay, the domin l'reshus over here means that it's like reshus in the following sense. Okay, if a person doesn't have a house, he has no obligation. Okay, if a person has a house, what does he have to do? But how can you say it's reshus? Here you could not define it one way or the other. Whether it is reshus or not reshus depends upon whether he has a house or not. Because he has no house, it's zero. And if he has a house, he's chayiv. It's doimel reshus in the sense that a person doesn't have to be obligated. But if he is, he's obligated. Once he has the house, he has to have it, unless he's mafka his house, which he could do also. That's what he meant with doimel reshus. He was very careful because you can't call it reshus. Reshus, certain mitzvahs, shchita, you can call it reshus because there's never an obligation. Here, you can't call the term. Reshus would be inaccurate because under certain situation there is an obligation. That's why he says doimel reshus. Okay? Okay, you want to give the key? People want to hear it.
Okay, Reb Chaim, I'm going to ask you a different type of question.
You can ask whatever you want.
Different
That's what I'm
type-
here for. I'm
At
here,
what
people
point?
want to see this high
at what-
sperm.
At what point in the Rav's life do you think that he became self-aware that he was going to be probably the Gadol Hador?
You know. You see, I can't, you know, I'll be frank with you, okay? The Rav was a very humble person. And, you know, I'd wanted to talk about that and tell some stories, and then I saw his humility. I think, you know, you're reading into him what you would have felt if you were him. Because I never believed the modesty that I noticed in the Rav. There was never, you see, I'll tell you something. You'll find, you go to a wedding, okay? And you see certain Rosh Yeshivas, you know, picking up their frocks or, you know, tucking the thing in, just getting ready to be called up for the brachas. And you find people sitting in the back, okay? The Rav, I never noticed, I never saw him, and certainly as a model, I never saw that he felt anything is coming to him. And I don't think he looked at himself in that fashion, and maybe I'm wrong. It's only my personal take. I can only tell you what I thought.
I had the distinct honor and privilege of learning with the Rav at a certain time. I came in when the Rav was learning for a second time Nida and Mikvois.
Yeah. That was in the 50s probably.
That's right. I would like to tell you
Because
something.
I spoke to people who were there also, so we'll see. We'll compare the stories.
Chaim Bravim, I think it was the one he told me the following story. Chaim Bravim.
Okay, beseder?
Everybody heard of Chaim Bravim.
Okay,
He told
beseder.
me the following story, that one day the Rav gave a shir, and then a Talmud, in the middle of the shir, when the Rav completed more of the shir, the Talmud raised his hand, he says, the Ritva zok pink verkehrt. When the Rav heard that it was the Ritva who said something which was contrary to the shir, the Rav took out his notes, tore them up completely to show that he accepted, understand that he had made a mistake. However, later on, when the Rav finally got to the Ritva, the Sefer, he opened up the Sefer and he saw that the way the Talmud had interpreted the Ritva was completely wrong. So he called
This, I want you to know, this is very surprising, the story.
he called up the Talmud and he said to Talmud that take a look at the Ritva again and you'll see you misinterpreted the Ritva.
I'm just amazed at the story, okay? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what I know. I know the amaze. I can tell you other stories about his, but that he accepted a Talmud's reading of the Ritva without looking at himself, I find very difficult to believe.
This Talmud happened to have been
I can tell you, okay, I witnessed the story.
Talmud Mufo.
Okay, good. I witnessed the story, okay? He said his shir for at least 2 hours, okay? 10 minutes of the shir, X raises his hands. And he says the guy with the Shem of foolish, and the guy was not bad, let's say. Don't bother me! Okay, the guy put his hand down and just, went for cover. 2 hours into the shir, the Rav said, what did you want? Okay? 2 hours after working. And the guy says, Rebbe, I only want to say this. And the Rav stops for a second. He says, I want you to know what you said is much better than what I said. Everything that we spoke about in the last 2 hours is just thrown to the wayside. That I can tell you, I witnessed.
I was sitting in the shir.
Okay, what second? Was other people with questions? Okay, what second? If you want to give him a Seder. Yeah. 1 second, you want to give her the...
I'm asking you also a very different kind of question. I had the
That's
great
you.
privilege of knowing of the special bond between the Rebbetzin Tanya and the rabbi. How much influence did she have on the Rav?
Okay, you know, there are two ways I can deal with this, okay? No. One way, in other words, see, I usually like to deal with, and one of the things that I learned from the Rav is to not to see reality through somebody else's spectacles, okay? And in my, I must say, okay, I must say that from what I witnessed, I can't say anything because I came into the shir after her demise, after her patira. I can tell you, okay, I hope that I have the right to say this. I hope so. When we were discussing, I was discussing with her son Chaim about, you know, how much in the Shamadan was this. There was the word Shamadan is a suitcase in Polish. Okay, in the Shamadan was Rab Chaim's Togbuch, that was his diary, all the Chedushay Torah, the Pinkus of Rab Moshe, the Gram Vagrid, and the Igris Hagrid, all letters, everything was in that satchel, okay? And the family was told that if there's a fire, forget about everything, take the Shamadan and run, okay? Okay? Chaim once told me that if a mother had known, let me just even go back for a second. A father was nifta in Tafshin Aleph, 1941. Okay. The whole Igris Hagrid is basically, as I told you, exchange of letters. After father passed away, there was absolutely nothing. He hardly wrote anything. Probably because he felt there was no one to write to, or no one to write for. But Chaim told me, just to give you just a glimpse, if Mama had known how much Papa was writing, she would have said, Bell, schreib! And he would have sat down and wrote. Okay? I think that says a lot more than any other answer. I just do apologize to the person who told me this if I was not allowed to say this. But I thought that in the best way that I can answer the question from what I heard, I'm just reporting what I heard. Okay? Okay, speak. 100%.
I'm the only person who knew the Rav longest in this room. At any rate, at my wedding, I had been in yeshiva, and then I went to Rav Chaim Mesivta, Chaim Berlin. Rav Hutner came to my wedding. This is an answer to whether the Rav felt that he was the Gadol Hador. So Rav Hutner told me, he says, I know your family's friendship with the Rav, so I'll come as a guest. But at the chuppah, the Rav, he gave out the brachas, he gave Rav Hutner the Seder Kedushin, and that was it. The Rav, I think he knew he was the Gadol Hador, but he never advertised it. And the second story about what Miss Willick said, the Rav used to give shiurim in Boston in Yiddish. The Rav then decided that he would have a greater audience if he would speak in English. The Rebbetzins, Aleh Shalom, wanted him to continue the Yiddish, but he spoke in English.
Okay. Isn't that you finished? What's him? He didn't give it. Couldn't have good.
I should make sure that I heard you correct. You spoke about obviously the Hanukkah and so on. You didn't say that. You did not say that there is no Ma'aseh Mitzvah in Hanukkah.
I don't know, I can't tell you. It could be there isn't, it could be the Gemara says, Hadloka is a
Hadloka is a
mitzvah.
mitzvah.
I was quoted, I have the Gemara written. I'm not sure it's a Maisa mitzvah. I'm not sure what it is, or Hechetimsa, how to Mekayim. I can't tell you because the Rav doesn't, he says that the Kiyum is Memela if there's Hadloka. I can't tell you.
But the Rav also says another Yisaid, that the brachas are always on Maaseh mitzvahs and not on Kiyume mitzvahs.
I know
you know. That's what I'm asking.
I'm not sure how that would factor out over here. It could be that it's okay. I know this problem. I was afraid of this. And it's not true. I don't know, the bracha, the Nusach HaBracha, in Nusach HaBracha used to claim that might depend on the Dagos Ashri, or whether you say Tkiya Shofar, Liskoya B'Shofar or not, in terms of Nusach HaBracha, but the Ovel HaSiyasa, ich weiß, I understand that it could be, but it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me.
Why?
It doesn't bother me because it's not, I don't believe that he's learning that even if it's a Maaseh mitzvah, it's not the same as
Rises.
The mitzvah is to equip the house. The adlok is to equip the house with a Ner Chanukah. That's the Maisa, or that's the Hechsher to have it, which also might be the same in terms of a bracha. But I'm not clear. I thought about it. I was toying with this, but I decided that it's not clear what he would have said over here. I decided not to speak it, but I wanted to leave clarity because this is only speculation.
I just don't know whether I heard right. That's
Okay, but say that. I was very careful. Yes, okay, give the...
Just a little clarification on the difference between the mezuzah.
Yeah.
Where if you don't have a house, you're not obligated to put on the mezuzah. Now, does that mean that if you what if you don't have a house? Does that mean that you're obligated to buy a house in order to light Ner Chanukah?
I assume you might be obligated to be an achsanor. You are obligated to do whatever is necessary. You know, there are different shiurim, how much money I have to pay, whether it's chaymesh in order a fifth of my assets in order to mekayim a mitzvah, but whatever would be necessary to mekayim a mitzvah, I would have to do it in order to mekayim the mitzvah Chanukah. I am obligated, or renting a house, or to be achsanor somehow, to have some obligation to be involved in the house. That's what Ram seems to say.
And a related question, which is really a practical thing. We see, especially here in Eretz Yisrael, that a lot of people have I don't know if you call that a chutzir, but they have something in front of their house, and they have these special places where they light the outside that, as opposed to lighting it.
Outside that, I don't know where they're lighting.
You have a house. There's the wall of the house.
Okay,
Then
you
there's a
cannot
yard.
light. You can either
There's
light
a-
on a window, okay?
No, not about a window. I'm talking about there's the house, the wall of the house. The front wall may have windows or not. The front wall, and then there's a chatzir. There's a thing in front,
Yeah.
and in front of that thing in front, there's a space for lighting candles.
I can't really tell you if the place is on the entrance to the chotzer, then according to Tais it's okay, and according to Rashi it's not. Okay, if it's in the middle, and that's why I was very careful because that's the shir tefach. Ner Chanukah is not on a caravan or something like that. Ner Chanukah is very explicit that it has to relate to a house, and it has to relate to a door of a house, or has to relate, and if it's an aliyah, to a window. And if it doesn't relate to a door or a window, then there's manichoy al beisa b'shas hashmad v'dayoi. But it's house, okay? Without house, there's nothing to talk about. And house has to relate to the door, to the window, or to something like that. See, people don't look at mitzvahs as having exact dinim. Everything is be'erech. Yes? Okay, one second.
I'd like to ask what you
1
said
second.
about a door or window.
Yeah.
My father, who was Bucky in the Shulchan Aruch, whatever, he knew how to learn, lit under the mezuzah at an inside door.
Like inside the door of the house or a different door?
in the house at a door under the mezuzah.
I can't. I'll tell you one thing, okay? Your father not only knew Shulchan Aruch, he knew Meseches. He knew Megillas Tainis, okay? And the Megillas Tainis has a fourth place to light. Okay, I want to tell you something. He says, "Umedelis ubifnim mipnei haleitzim," because the people used to come away and take the Ner Chanukah away. So he used to put on the Delis Habayis Bifnim, and that was Megillas Tainis. That's what he was doing. Okay?
The Ner Chanukah, Ishu Beito.
Well, you were not, your father's more. Your father was more than what you think. Your father was more.
The Ner Chanukah, Ishu Beito, you said, of course, the Chovos Habayis.
Yeah.
What about then the Mahadran came, who said,
I was going
does
to
that
talk
convert
about
it to
this.
a Chovos
The question is, okay, is Mahadrin built on top of this or not? I wanted to talk about this, but I left that part out because of the time, okay? The question is the Rambam, you have to look at the Rambam. The question is, if a person says, I don't want this, watch this, I don't, watch the cane. Okay. I don't want to fulfill my obligation. I don't want it, okay? There is a basis that seems to say that I'll tell you something. I remember, and I'll tell you the pshat. I was once when I was in the shir once, we wanted to go away for Shabbos. So I asked the Rav, what about Achsanoi? I'm going away for Shabbos. He looked at me in utter amazement. He says, who goes away on Hanukkah? I would never go away on Hanukkah. That's what he said. I didn't understand where he was coming from. I say, Zikmo Achsanoi, what does he want? So the interesting thing is that I found years later that the Beis Yosef, the Amor disagrees with it, but the Beis Yosef says that Achsanoi wants a light on his own, he can't, and it's a Bochel Batolo. The whole Achsanoi basically doesn't have a house. His whole house is only as much as a border. And he can only be Mishtatev B'Prite. That's it. The question is that a person on one night stand, is he an Achsanoi or not? And what constitutes an Achsanoi? Then you get yourself nervous. But there's no Hadloka. Except for, according to the Beis Yosef, and that's probably what he meant, who would go away on Hanukkah? Okay? Okay, we still... Okay, more questions, whatever you want.
In regard to your opening, you spoke about the elusive it, and you equated it with Torah Shebaal Peh. What about Dover Godol? I mean, the Rav spent the whole life in philosophy, and how does that relate to...
I just want to tell you something. Can I ask you a question? Under what do you mean, how do you know that the Rav spent his whole life in philosophy?
His whole life, but...
That's what, I don't know, I wish I had a recording here.
But, I mean, the books that he wrote, like Ish Halacha, is not exactly Midrash, is not exactly a Tosfos.
His grandson told me, and I don't want you to don't faint, he wrote Ish Halacha in 1 day, or 2 days.
Don't faint. I overheard Rabbi Lichtenstein, Aaron Lichtenstein, saying in the Rav's 80 years, he spoke about the fact that he read, quote, the Divrei Torah of Protestant authors, and he said that they were terrific. They had something to say. That doesn't come up at all in your discussion at all.
Okay, I'll be frank with you. In all the 11 years that I was in the shir, okay, and all the time that I was in the apartment, okay, I must confess, I would have, if I would have known that he wanted to talk about Protestant writers, I would have discussed it, but he never mentioned that, and I can only say, as I put disclaimer, I only said that I could talk about what I saw, not about what I didn't see. But I can tell you that he never discussed with Protestant authors in the, and I can tell you, okay, I can tell you that one family member, okay, I don't know if I would call him closer to Rabbi Aaron or further than Rabbi Aaron. I mean, I'm not going to say, but he told me that the most of the things of the Rav's involvement in those things which were not Torah was basically tzok ashah, and that the world has turned around who he was and what he was, and did not comment on why that is so, why they do turn it around. But I don't know if he said it was 10% or 15% of his time because he felt maybe modern Jews need it or whatever it is. But, you know, I must say I walked into the apartment many times and never saw him opening up a Protestant textbook and wanting to discuss it with me. Could be I came in at the wrong time.
Just like to mention people who learned by Rav Moshe in the Shir, most of the shiurim that he said, "Chagehad from Vater," referring to Reb Chaim, or the "Chagehad from Azum." But you know that you and I, and who sat in the Rav Shir, the Rav was continuously saying, "Chagehad from Vater," Hinomen from Zayden. So that describes to you who the Rav was. The world who knew him like his father recognized him as the big Talmid Chacham that he is, but he himself didn't blow from himself.
And Dr. Goldstein, we cannot stress it more. I can only tell you once, and I'll tell you, I mean, just, do you have it uvda? I was once in the apartment with the Rav, and he had wanted to talk to me, and there were no shamoshim around. And he had to sit down because he couldn't really stand up. And in the most humble, majestic way, he apologized again and again and again that he's going to ask me to help him sit down. This is not the person who talks and thinks himself, you know, the Gadol Hador is here. This is, as you understand, Moshe's greatness was only Aish Moshe on the Me'od. Hagain of Yosef Dev Halevi looked at himself as on the Me'od.
I want to add one more thing to this. Everything the Rav wrote while his father was alive had the commas and the spaces and everything. But I myself saw his, for instance, his shiurim that he gave publicly. Very often, one word was crossed out 4, 5, 6 times until he reached the word that he wanted. But he had, besides everything else, what's not known to the world, the Yiras HaKavod that the Rav had for his father was absolutely unbelievable. So everything he did before was really meticulous and punctuated and the right words. I don't know how many times he rewrote it before he sent it to his father, but that was the Yiras HaKavod that he had for him. But the Rav was also in the big shiurim that he gave in the, for instance, the Yahrtzeit shiurim. He used to come into the shir with about 25, 30 pages, but there were crossed out words over and over and over again until he got to the right one. But the Yiras HaKavod is not to be believed.
I would just say, posted to what he said, one of the things that, the group that was working on the Sefer Sforim, we said that the biggest tragedy in the Rav's life was Rav Moshe's P'tira. Because after Rav Moshe, after he passed away, there was a lot of work in saying shiurim, but the written word didn't exist. There was no one to write to. And Father used to always write to him, write to me, write to me, write to me, write to me. And Father always used to also something. Hadvorim tovim avo chserim raya. They're good, they sound good, but they're missing a proof. And the Rav wrote a letter showing proofs and proofs and proofs. The Rav was the sounding, the Moshe Soloveitchik was the sounding board which the Rav needed. And that was their relationship from the time that Rab Chaim took him and told Rav Moshe when they were 7, 8 to take, he told Rav Moshe to take his son, Rav Yosef Dov Alevi, as a student, and they learned to 22, and then exchanged letters. The Rav's life was intertwined with Rav Moshe, and Rav Moshe with the Rav.
I just want to take it one extension further to when the Rav first started having symptoms of Parkinson's, I took him to see a Dr. Scheinberg, who was chief of neurology at Einstein. And this Scheinberg was a Käuferbeker and everything else. To him, the Rav didn't mean anything. And he very briskly said to the Rav, "What's your problem, Rabbi?" And the Rav started telling him the symptoms. And as he was talking, the Scheinberg's mouth kept dropping bigger and bigger and wider open. Says, "You read the book in neurology?" Says, "What are you talking about? You're describing the disease as it's written in the medical books." And the Rav had not read the book, but the Rav knew how to describe things.
I'll tell you, I heard a similar story, but a little bit different take, okay? One of the members of the family told me that the Rav told him, there are 10 symptoms of Parkinson's, and I have this, and that, and I think I should see a neurologist tomorrow, okay? And tomorrow, it just never happened. I understand when you brought him, I'm saying he himself, I'm just telling you, he diagnosed himself before.
This is the brisker derech, their fear of pikuach nefesh.
I understand. I'm not trying to tell you. I'm just telling you that I heard this story from a different angle.
That is, the Rav was a yochid bedora, and it was a gadol ador, and there's no use talking about comparing him. It's
okay.
Anybody who had the privilege to
100%.
Learn under him.
100%. 100%. I can't say more than 100%, but it's more.
We got Marv next door.
Okay, let's say that. Thank you so much. Oh, hello.
When is the Sefer coming out?
I don't know. I'm holding by the 9th Shurish. I'm finishing 9th Shurish. I need a lot of proofreading, and I need a lot of work.
Navarro writes the fact that Chodesh Habayis is nice to create in your brother.
I understand you're going to say, but the question is what that means exactly. Is the same sense of a Maisa when you say